Hello Israel, it's me again, Red Planet, coming to you with another video. I want to give all praises to the Most High. All praises to the Most High and the Most High only. And I wanted to just say I love you, my YouTube family, from my heart to yours. Let's get into the video, Israel.
We were wrong about gravity. Could we be wrong about other theories, particularly those that involve it? How we measure Earth's mass. Today, the Cavendish experiment measures the mass of one object based on its tug to another. But even before the redefining of gravity, this theory had flaws. The gravitational conditions in a science lab are nothing like conditions in space, and the theory assumes that each particle exerts a fixed force upon all others, ruling out the very real possibility that particles near the surface of a planet might exert a force greater than those deep within it. So, if gravity is no longer a valid theory, and it's used to determine mass, and the mass of the Earth is overstated, then it follows that the masses of all other planets in the solar system are also overstated. If the Earth is cavernous or hollow, then so too is every other planet in the solar system. Some of the greatest scientific minds have challenged the theory of a dense Earth. Around the same time as Newton, geophysicist, mathematician, and astronomer Edmund Halley, who predicted the orbit of his comet, said the magnetic anomalies of the Earth could only be the result of a different composition. He believed that beneath the Earth's crust were two thick concentric shells, and that each region potentially had its own atmosphere, luminosity, and was possibly even inhabited. If this idea sounds crazy, check out this NASA video taken showing Saturn's North Pole, with the exact counter-rotating fields that Halley described. And in this rare NASA video of Jupiter's pole, you can count up to 15 of these counter-rotating cylinders. Halley also speculated that the poles would have access into Earth, and that the aurora borealis was the result of light emanating from this counter-rotation, exactly as it does in the videos of these other planets.
We already have all the solutions to all the big problems in the world. They already exist.
Gaia offers a platform for awakening to new truths.
Watch this NASA video closely, and you'll see that the Australis borealis appears to be clearly emanating from a dark point on the planet. If you overlay a map on the planet, it's exactly at the point of the South Pole. 100 years later, Swiss mathematician and physicist Leonhard Euler, who's still considered one of the greatest mathematicians of all time, also proposed that Earth was completely hollow with a central sun in the center, similar to what Halley proposed, agreeing with Halley that holes at the North and South Pole would provide access to it. Germany's most influential mathematician, Johann Carl Friedrich Gauss, in the early 1800s, stated, "All of our Earth's history, physics, and geography could be explained by Earth being a hollow planet with entrances at the poles." Naturally, satellite images of the poles are going to disprove this craziness, right? Well, there's a problem. NASA's images and videos of poles are rare. They're hard to find. But when they are revealed, they often have cloud cover, ice cover, or questionable anomalies, like simply being blotted out. Stranger still, no planes or satellites are permitted to come within a certain distance of the poles. Well, in November 1968, a satellite photo of the North Pole was released. It showed a large polar opening in absence of cloud cover. Now, it's possible a trick of time-based photography created this illusion, but satellite images since then, showing serious anomalies, do raise questions, particularly the one from Russian space station Mir in 1987, showing light emanating in a very mysterious fashion. And Then there are other NASA images of the planets: Venus, Jupiter, the various moons, all showing strange qualities or blotted out poles. In fact, how's it possible to have perfectly hexagonal angles on Saturn? Why do these images from space consistently have their poles concealed? Like this blotted one of Jupiter, where you can actually see light emanating from the center. Was Edgar Allan Poe correct when he said, "Sometimes the best hiding place is the one that's in plain sight"? Another anomaly in measuring Earth's mass happens when we study earthquakes. Since the early 1900s, seismograph readings have proved that Earth does have some density, but not without raising even more questions. You see, when an earthquake occurred, discovered large bodies of water 400 miles into the Earth. They concluded that the mantle transition zone, a rock layer between 400 and 700 kilometers below the Earth's surface, could hold 3 times the amount of water in the world's oceans. One of the team's scientists said, "This is direct evidence supporting the hypothesis that the deep Earth holds a lot of water." Modern science can't confirm the physical structure of Earth's interior as a fact. Since we're prohibited from flying over or seeing the poles, and we're prohibited from exploring caves without permits or assigned guides, how might we know what exists in inner Earth? Interestingly enough, many of the accounts of this strange, unique land have been told by very respected, credible people. But first, let's look at history. Almost every ancient culture shares legends about interactions with subterranean races. Clearly, some of these are considered to be purgatory for sinners, attempts to deter people from wrongdoing. But other legends, those about Agartha, with its cities Shambhala and Potala, have striking resemblances, no matter which continent they originate from. In all legends, these civilizations tell of 2 beings, very tall giants or very advanced reptilian races. The word Agartha is of Buddhist origin. True Buddhists fervently believe in this subterranean empire, which they say has millions of inhabitants and many cities, including the capital, Shambhala, where a supreme ruler dwells. They believe the Dalai Lama is his terrestrial representative, and his messages are transmitted to the lamas in Tibet. They believe that they've been there for thousands of years, sheltering humanity since the terrestrial cataclysms. The Russian artist, philosopher, and explorer Nicholas Roerich published that a Tibetan Lama revealed the capital of Tibet was connected by a tunnel with Shambhala, the heart of the subterranean empire of Agartha, and that the entrance of this tunnel was guarded by lamas who were sworn to keep its actual whereabouts a secret from outsiders. Those who are led through this underground passage travel deep into Earth through areas where it becomes so narrow it can be difficult to pass through.
Hey there, I'm Alan, CEO of 4 Patriots here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'd like to show you this container with 4 whole weeks of food packed inside.
According to Tibetans, Shambhala is a physical place, but one that also has an ethereal nature, given its location inside this holistic, evolving planet. Given our understanding of how matter can be warped in space and time by mass, this could make sense. One Gnostic scholar explains the underworld as a plane between spirit and our reality, an area where the ethers of spirit become nature, and nature returns back to spirit, making it both a physical and an apparitional realm. In the ancient epic poem, the Mahabharata, the Hindus also spoke of Aryavarta, the abode of the excellent ones, which was said to be ruled by a supernal race, the Nagas, a half-human, half-reptilian species depicted with jeweled hoods that light their realm. It's said the Nagas possessed cutting-edge technology and had an unpredictable and sometimes merciless nature, known to abduct and torture humans, while at other times influencing positive events on Earth. It's also said they inhabited Patala. Perhaps it's not coincidence, then, that the name of the palace where the lamas guarded the tunnel entrances is the Potala Palace. It also raises questions about the motivation the Chinese government had when they violently overthrew Tibet's peaceful leaders in the 1950s, in a coup which may have cost But when he shared his incredible story, they placed him in a madhouse for the mentally insane, where, sadly, he remained for 28 years. Not until he was 90 years old did he share the story of his life's journey with Emerson, giving him maps of the interior of the Earth, along with the manuscript of his experiences. Around the same time in 1895, the Nobel Prize laureate and Norwegian explorer Dr. Fridtjof Nansen set on an expedition to reach the North Pole. Nansen completely lost his bearings, admitting he couldn't identify the mysterious land which he found, and that lands marked on the map of one of the best-known explorers simply did not exist. He had many unusual things happen, noting that after bitter cold, suddenly the temperature began to rise, and it even became unbearably hot. It was never made clear where Nansen was exactly, but as the expression goes, he was not in Kansas anymore. Deep in the Amazon jungle, the ancient Makushi Indians have remained isolated from advanced civilizations until very recently. They're said to be the guardians of an entrance to inner Earth, and they describe the journey and the beings in vivid detail. They say for 15 days you must traverse through caverns until balls of bright light and glowing discs appear inside the Earth. There, a civilization of very tall beings, 12 to 15 feet, live inside a lush ecosystem of vegetation. This primitive culture also describes how they encounter molten rock at deep depths. Without any modern education, how could they know such detail unless there was some truth to their story? After the First World War, a German occultist group founded the Thule Society to pursue paranormal sciences. They publicized the Tibetan legends about openings into the earth, and they became obsessed with finding these entrances, with German emissaries even visiting Tibet. This group later endorsed what became the Nazis. As the Third Reich grew in military superiority and geographical dominance, Hitler ordered a team of researchers to find an inner Earth opening in Antarctica. Later, a German U-boat, commanded by Heinrich Broden, claimed that they had reached the interior of the Earth, and even stated that they didn't want to come back, adding, "The Earth is, in fact, hollow." A diagram of Agartha was then drawn by a German scientist in 1935, in corroboration with the U-boat navigator. These stories are backed up by maps made for the National Geographic Society in 1966 by the famous cartographer Henrik Behren. In that map, Antarctica can be observed without its thick layer of ice. But the most interesting detail on the map are the underwater passageways spanning across the entire continent, which appear to converge at the exact location identified as the opening into inner Earth. And then there's the disturbing part of this legend, that Hitler and many of his minions escaped Germany in the closing days of World War II and fled to Antarctica, where they escaped into the Earth's interior. Information that would allow him to abide by his principles of integrity. In February of '47, Byrd, the one man who has done the most to make the North Pole a known area, made the following statement: "I'd like to see the land beyond the pole, the center of the great unknown. Millions of people read this statement in their newspapers or heard it on the radio broadcast. Did they look at their globes? What land was he talking about? If you look at the map, calculate the distance from all the known lands near it, and none of them are within 200 miles of the pole. In fact, Byrd himself called it no known land, that after 1,700 miles, he said he hadn't reached the end of it. He should have been back to civilization, right? But he wasn't. He should have seen nothing but ice-covered ocean, or at the very most, partially open ocean. Instead, he was flying over green, lush areas, including lakes and mountains. It was already published that he had discovered 2 unknown land areas measuring a total of 4,000 miles across, and yet, instead of receiving notoriety like Christopher Columbus, his story disappeared. Was Byrd trying to say what he knew without revealing it outright? Was anybody paying attention? To add to this confusion, in 1956, the editor of Flying Saucer magazine, Ray Palmer, wrote a detailed story on Byrd's discoveries. Apparently, however, as the issue headed to press, they mysteriously disappeared, and strangely, the printing plates were found badly damaged, so a reprint couldn't be done. Some other interesting, indisputable facts about the time were that, up to this point, there had been a few books published about the North Pole having entrances into the Earth. Another thing was that Byrd was accused of lying in effort to receive credit for being the first person to the North Pole, an accusation that seems somewhat inconsistent with a man of his character. Another thing that Byrd shared was that the poles are concave, not convex as thought, and that the South Pole is 10,000 feet high, whereas the North Pole is 10,000 feet low. It was well documented that there was a large spike in temperature as he approached the pole. But one of the biggest mysteries involving Byrd may have happened right after World War II with Operation High Jump. While it was said at the time it was an expedition to Antarctica to find coal and other resources, that story later changed to training military personnel and establishing a research base. In the meantime, you can't help but wonder why either mission would require 33 aircraft, 13 Navy ships, and almost 5,000 soldiers, and mysteriously result in loss of lives. Leaks later revealed that the true mission was to retrieve the missing Nazi leaders from their refuge at Antarctica. But Byrd cut the 8-month mission short after what the Chilean press reported as troubles with many fatalities, though the event was clearly downplayed in the U.S. Following a military-aided evacuation, the force returned. Their stories immediately became classified as top secret, but inevitable leaks revealed that there were attacks by highly advanced saucer-shaped airships. The Secretary of the Navy, by this time the Secretary of Defense, James Forrestal, started to talk. President Truman forced him to resign, and he was soon taken to Bethesda Naval Hospital's psychiatric ward, where he was prevented from seeing or talking to anyone, including his own wife. I state that I have faithfully kept this matter secret, as directed all these years. It's been completely...
We all know the world is in tremendous crisis and peril today.
The problem is, the culturescape keeps
completely against my values of moral right. Now, I seem to sense the long night coming on, and this secret will not die with me. But as all truth shall, it will triumph, and so it shall. This can be the only hope for mankind. I've seen the truth, and it has quickened. And the Yucatan, and also added that there were other entrances in the Bermuda Triangle, the Soviet Union, and Africa. He said that there were different races in the inner earth, just like on the surface, and some of them quite tall. He also confirmed the U.S. government and other countries are aware of the inner earth and are covering up the fact as they are the UFOs and extraterrestrials. Another man, Dallas Thompson, appeared on Coast to Coast Radio. He was a personal trainer in California who, during an out-of-body death experience, had revelations of inner Earth. After his recovery, he became an avid researcher, intending to find and travel the hole that birds said to have entered at the North Pole. In 2003, after months of planning, however, he mysteriously disappeared. Finally, the most notable whistleblower of the secret space program, Corey Goode, has given consistent and extensive details on inner Earth. Among his claims are that there is a huge population currently living in Antarctica, that the United States is not the only nation that's created underground bases that are inhabited by thousands of people. Corey Goode has shared that the Mayans were not defeated, but in fact retreated to the inner Earth. He claims that the Mayans have crafts which appear to be rock, but they look like long cigars, cylindrical in shape. Goode's description of the Mayan craft are not unlike this one, which entered our solar system from a distant galaxy not long ago, and has since been recorded as speeding up. He also notes that there are many people channeling what they believe are Pleiadians, but those are in fact inner Earth beings protecting their location by claiming to be off the planet. Goode also said that disclosure will be an earth-shattering event, but a necessary one, and he implores everyone to see the Earth as a maternal living thing, inviting us to seek a deeper relationship with our planet. In our drive for power, resources, and control, we've become disconnected and impartial to the effects our choices have on the balance of nature. In conclusion, perhaps you hear these stories and can only hear legend. They're just too fantastical to be true. Suspend your disbelief for a moment, however, and other tales start to make more sense. The explanation of Earth's strange magnetic anomalies and its shadow zones. It explains the thousands of mysterious crafts, including the many which have been witnessed shutting down nuclear weapons, that they could be right under our feet, not coming from some distant place in space. It explains the obsession with Antarctica and the complete denial by governments of all unidentified flying objects. It explains the omission of the poles in satellite pictures, the laws preventing one from flying